Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin and Prez, and this is episode 484. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Prez, that is @_Presidente on Twitter and @Presidente on Blue Sky. Prez, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I am debating whether to spend about $11 to get tickets next week to Wizards versus 76ers with a halftime show by none other than the Yin Yang Twins. So it could be a special night for me personally, but we'll see.
Is that's $11 face value?
Yep, $11. And I'm assuming nobody's there, so you could probably sit wherever you want.
Well, you never know. It might be $12.10 with the tariff, the 10% tariff that we've got to add to it. So you got to watch out. Those sneaky tariffs will sneak up on you.
Price is going up. Sorry, Yin Yang Twins, it's not my fault.
Actually, no, you're good. That's a domestically produced product. Domestically produced product, we're good.
Are the Wizards domestically produced? Half the team is French. TBD.
Shit, you might get hit with like the 46% tariff then. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to play it by ear. All right, enough shitty political jokes. We all will have to deal with that in our own way. So I don't think one way anybody wants to deal with it is listening to my bullshit. We're going to talk about not tariffs. We're going to talk about the Knicks, and we're going to talk about things tangential to the Knicks or directly related to the Knicks. It'll be fantastic. Before we do that, I do have to make a few announcements. First, being that Strickland has a YouTube channel where you maybe watch this podcast. If you are, and you're not done so already, please like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. That'd be a huge help to us. Strickland also has merchandise, which you can find on our website at www.thestrick.land. There's a link that'll take you to the merchandise store, and there's all kinds of cool stuff that you can find on there, like t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we've got it. Strickland also has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. They're numbered for tiers. There's $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland, the podcast that I host every Friday with Prez. You also get access to Takes from Hobbies, Bozos, a podcast hosted by Andrew Steele, aka Dog along with Zach Blatter, and you get access to the Strickland Discord, where the conversation never stops. There, for the tiers, there's a $9 tier that gets you access to Strickland Roll, my solo pod where I rant with X even more. You also get access to one for premium articles by Matthew Marino, one of the best in business, and you get access to Strickland NFL, which you guessed is a podcast about the NFL that is hosted by Konstantin Mechkos and Desmond Novak. There are further tiers. There's $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and $100 tier is going to a variety of additional benefits, like listening on our product recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially hosting a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe or not. None of this would be possible without you. And none of this would be possible without, nope, not going to do it because I don't need to. Not for this week anyway. That's it. That's the end of the ad reads. Everybody be happy. That's the end of the pod, actually, too. Just kidding. All right. So the Knicks split a back-to-back. They beat down the skeleton crew Sixers led by our former son, now rejected son, Quentin Grimes.
And soon then to be paid son, maybe
paid and taxed appropriately, I'm sure.
Quick tangent. What how much do you think he's gonna get per year? I have no fucking idea, so don't ask me to answer.
I think he'll probably get like at least. I think he'll probably get 20 a year.
Ooh, you think someone's really gonna buy it?
I just think if I'm him, like, I don't know, you're kind of like play. I mean, he's taking advantage of the situation. I personally wouldn't pay him 20 a year. I think the situation is really
there's a lot of bad free agents competing for money, so it would be the year.
Yeah, I mean, the situation's been really good for him, given the fact that nobody is playing. Their games are meaningless, so it's kind of like he has the freedom to do whatever. As George Niang said, if Tyrese is here, you'd be in the corner. If Joel was here, you're in the corner. George Niang has never lied. He probably hasn't lied. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think 20 a year sounds about right for him. But if it's
that'll be funny if he gets 20 a year, because that'll be like a wild journey to a Prez W, because that's originally what I projected him for way back when he was just like going towards being like a solid 3D plus 2 guard.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like what we thought after his second year. Then obviously shit went all over the place, but good for him. Anyway, the Knicks. There's not. I thought there was basically nothing to take away from that game other than that Mitch looked good. That was it. That was my only takeaway from
You
that
don't
game.
think Mitch is now going to be a 75% free throw shooter?
You know, I don't see it, unfortunately. But
11 for 15 on the season. A
hopefully I'm
change
wrong.
is here. Just
Hopefully I'm
kidding,
wrong.
guys. I was actually curious, so I looked up particularly from his rookie year, and he's actually had several stretches of free throw shooting much better than this, if you can believe it. So a change may not actually come.
I have a feeling it is not here. So anyway, the Knicks win that game again. Not a particularly exciting game or meaningful game. At least not in the scale of in the scheme of learning anything about this team.
Yeah, no cat, no worry, doesn't matter, whatever.
Yeah, that was a stupid game. They got smoked last night in the second half. They were up 7 at the end of the first half against the Cavs. They're up 60-53 at the end of the first half. They lost the game 124-105. I talked about it after the game. We did our pod right after and recorded that. So I gave my reaction. I thought it was basically a lot of the same of what we've seen against most of the elite teams. OG's hot shot making in the first half, I think obviously that helps. I also think it covered up some of the lack of offensive creativity that came about that we saw in the second half. To be clear, not giving certain guys like Mikal or Cat even a pass. I thought they did not have good games, but that is separate from what I'm talking about in this situation. And then defensively, offensively, a lot of times you can just kind of point to your personnel, be like, this is what I had. I could drop the greatest plays in the world, but these guys didn't execute what I wanted, and it's whatever. Okay, fine. We'll leave the offense there for a little bit. But defensively, it was just exactly what we've become accustomed to. And it's like, look, man, these guys can try as hard as they can, and I thought they competed
And
hard.
they didn't. No, on defense, I don't think they tried hard. Like, I didn't watch the game live. I watched it today. And if you took OG shooting out of there, I promise you this team would have been blown out by like 30 fucking points. They did not. There was nobody on defense who had any interest aside from the role players and the OG. And the role players, I mean, we know how they are. Like, Landry will try and then it won't matter, right? But like, I thought Mikal I thought he was completely just like mailing it in on defense. Donovan is a hard cover, Darius is a hard cover, but he literally, it's one thing to like get burned by them sometimes, but I don't think he kept them in front of him a single fucking time. Not a single time. Cat obviously was showcasing like the worst of his habits on defense. And then to make matters worse, as the game went on, he not only did his stupid fouls thing, but he also just decided to literally just not run back on defense. And his not running back led directly to 3 different wide open 3-pointers, uncontested 3-pointers. And like, I thought he clearly in the second half, by like halfway through the third quarter, he was clearly like, this, we don't have our personnel. I'm just going to try to like score through like 5 people. And then I'm just going to like whatever on defense. So like, it's the end of the season. Guys are really like, they're not tuned out is not the right word. They're just like coasting to the end of the season. It's very obvious to me that they're coasting to the end of the season, at least certain players, including Cat. So it's like, it's not the fucking end of the world, but like, to me, I mean, we've seen it with Mikal because, when he doesn't get touches on offense, he doesn't really lock in on defense, and he definitely did not get touches on offense.
I don't think it had to do anything to do with that. And I actually disagree with you. I think they tried fine at the start of the game, especially. I thought the first half, they did mostly what you would expect them to do. Like, would they have gotten blown out if OG didn't have an out-of-body experience? Yeah, of course. Like, he scored, 19 points in the first half. I think he had 6 threes, or 5 threes, whatever the fuck he had. He had a lot of threes. But I thought they competed pretty hard in the first half. And then the second half, I think you come out and drop.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, did they fight as hard as they could in the second half? No, probably not. But I also think at a certain point, like, I'm sorry, if I'm Mikal Bridges, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I'm not gonna try right now. Like, if we're just gonna
If
stay in
we're
drop,
just gonna let
if we're just gonna do
Danny and
drop,
Darius
like,
get to their mid range.
yeah, that's like that. Like, I'm sorry, it's a joke. Like, I just don't care for that. Like, I think it's easy, not easy, but like, I think, like, for example, I thought Josh Hart competed really hard yesterday.
Josh Hart competed.
Yeah, I thought he
He
competed really hard,
competed.
but I think it's a lot easier for him to compete because you're like, he's actually in his best position a lot of times because he's off the ball. And
Yeah, he has the easy job on defense.
I don't even know if it's easy, but it's like, it's the job that he's good for.
I would say he has the easiest of all the starters job on defense.
Yeah, probably. But I'm just saying, like, it's also just like the job that's
It's still
perfect for him.
important. Right.
It's the job that's perfect for him. So he competed
For
really
sure.
hard and he played really hard, and I'll give him all the credit in the world for that. Delon Wright did what Delon Wright can this is a guy that's fighting for his NBA survival in some ways. So I don't think you ever need to worry about, like,
putting on for all the 30+ hoopers out there. Shout out my son. No, shout out my brother, my comrade in arms, Delon Wright.
That's
even though
sad.
God, hey man, it was some of these lineups, man, with like 2-3 non-shooters. It was rough out there.
Well, that's the thing that is, whatever. We can get to that later. But, Delon Wright, you're not going to worry about his effort because he's playing for his NBA career. OG, I thought, played pretty great yesterday. I got to be honest, like, I thought defensively, I don't know what to make of his game because, like, he was good, but he also picked up fouls, and then they had to, like, hide him on
OG.
Yeah, and they're like, okay, so we're gonna put
he's
on.
He's not comfortable on Donnie and Darius. I don't think he's comfortable on those guys.
It was just a weird one for him. Like, I don't know. I think they probably should have just left him on Mobley. I get why they didn't necessarily want to because he was in foul trouble, but I think it would have been worth it. Either way, it doesn't really matter. He was really good, but like, this can be wrong, and people can disagree with me on this, and that's fine. But like, I've seen enough evidence where I think there are clearly games where Mikal, and honestly, we've seen this from OG earlier in the season too, like that Detroit game where I think OG was just like, fuck this. Like, I'm not, if we're just doing this drop thing, like, I'm not interested. Yeah. I'm just going to fucking, like, whatever. I'll go through the motions, but I'm not really going to, like, fight that hard here. And obviously, look, the thing that happens when you do that is it bleeds into other areas of your defense, right? It's not like you're just going to be like, well, I'm only going to not try in drop.
And your offense, if you're Mikal.
Yeah. But it's like, I'm just not going to, I'm only going to not try and drop, but in everything else, I will be very, very, like, detail oriented. And that's just not how it works. And we've seen that from OG earlier in the season. And I think we've seen that from Mikal throughout the season where, I mean, I don't, like, you go into halftime at 60-53. So if your baseline strategy of, like, let's just play drop and let's see how it goes. Okay. You go into halftime, 60-53. You're like, okay. Like, so this didn't completely fail and actually worked okay. Let's kind of like, let's get back out there and see what happens. Clearly they come out, and you can see this from, like, the end of the first half, really. You were already seeing this, but especially at the start of the second half, every single possession was, they would try, they would do some dribble handoff bullshit at the top of the key, and then they would eventually just run ball handler, center, pick and roll. So
the Cavs?
So just put McCat in the action.
Yeah.
And that's what they wanted to do. And the Knicks come out and start at the second half, and they're still in drop. Fine. Fair enough. You're still in drop. Cool. Cavs immediately come out, whatever. They take the lead, whatever. So we go 1 point. Knicks call timeout. And at that point, you should be like, okay, they're ready now. They've kind of figured this out. We need to throw a curveball at them. What else could we? There's none of that.
Normal teams.
There's none of that. And it wouldn't matter that much to me if this was like the one time this happened against the Cavs or the Celtics or OKC. But we know that's not the case. We know that, like, this has happened repeatedly against these teams. And, like, why I'm saying I would have been okay if we just saw that last night and it was a one-off thing. You're shorthanded. back to back, like you said, end of this, like you're getting towards the end of the season.
And by the way, I'm curious. I just looked it up in the first half, including passes. Cleveland actually scored 1.5 points per possession on pick and roll plays from the ball handler. So like it's not that our drop was working. It's just we were
other shit.
We were like on plays outside of right. They were not spamming it as much, but it worked. And then like most teams, they realized, oh, we should do this more at halftime, and that was one of the adjustments they made.
Well, and it's the same adjustment we've seen from many teams against the Knicks, where it's just like, well, I mean, I wouldn't even say the Celtics haven't even adjusted. They've just been like, we know what they're going to do, so we're just going to do that right from the start of the game, and that's that. And it's why Deuce McBride has made like actual impacts in those games. Not to say like there's no other reason he would make an impact, but more the idea of like the reason why it stands out when he's in these games and he makes this impact is because he is the Knicks' best point of attack defender. He's the guy most capable of, especially against these smaller guards, right? So against a team like Cleveland, fighting over the screen, staying attached, getting back in front, all those annoying little detailed bullshit things. Anyway, to get back to the point, you come out, you would think to make an adjustment, some kind of adjustment. I don't care what the adjustment is. Some adjustment. We're going to trap. Cat's going to play higher at the level. We're going to blitz. We're going to come out. I mean, we know this will never happen. We're going to come out in a zone. Like, but you got none of that. There was nothing of that sort. And they just stayed and dropped. And that was it. Like, that was the ball game. Really, once you kind of saw that, I really didn't have much hope once. I mean, I know the Knicks came back and, they fell down 7, I think, at one point, and then tied it up at 83 on like the most insane classic Josh Hart shot ever. But I didn't really ever think the Knicks were going to win that game from the end of the first half, but definitely from the start of the second half. And if I can feel that way, just watching this shit on TV, like, I think these guys know it. Like, I think there are guys on that team that it's like, especially the guy that you're like, you're going to defend the point of attack the entire time. It's like, dude, am I really going to have to do this the entire time? Like, that's what I have to do the entire time here. And that we can say that's shitty. That's a shitty attitude and you should bring it every night and whatnot. I think that's unrealistic because you're not dealing with like, this is not first year Emmanuel Quickly or second year Deuce McBride or first year Quentin Grimes.
You want to hear something funny? You want to hear something hilarious? Synergy breaks it down even further, and the majority of the Knicks pick and roll ball handler defense in the second half was where'd it go? Was single covered, which that's what how they classified drop, right? Like one person defending it. And there was Cleveland got 1.6 points per possession. There was one trap the whole time. So,
yeah, it's it's ridiculous. But like, yeah, you're not dealing with young players that are eager to like prove their point constantly and are desperate to like Mikal Bridges. Whether you agree with this or not, he doesn't need to earn his minutes. Like, he knows he's going to get those minutes. What do you need? You're going to bench him? You're going to bench him. You're going to bench the guy you traded 5 first-round picks for? Cat knows, like, hey, if I'm going to play drop, which, by the way, we already know is his worst coverage. It's the thing he's absolutely the worst at. I thought it was interesting. He made a comment a couple of days ago where they asked him something about switching. I think it might have been after the Blazers game. And he said something about, yeah, it's nice, like, sometimes you just use your God-given ability to, like, defend. And I thought that was an interesting comment. Like, I don't even...
That's a hilarious comment.
Yeah. Well, it was a hilarious comment, but it definitely was not... I don't think he intentionally is, like, saying something to throw a sub at Thibs or something, right? Like, throw some shade at him. I just think he was answering the question, honestly. But it kind of speaks to the point.
It's just his way of saying it's more natural.
Yeah, like, it doesn't... to me, I don't even know if he's trying to say that. I think he's just answering it honestly. And it kind of shows to me, like, what for all of Cat's great talent, would you say it's fair to say that he's not the most like high feel, high IQ player in the NBA? Is that fair to say? He's not one of the elite IQ kind of. Yes. Yeah.
I would put him in that group of players. Yes.
Yeah. So if you simplify stuff for him at times, you might get more out of him. And I know you can be like, well, drop is pretty simple. And I would say to that is I actually think drop is a lot harder for a player like him than switching or trapping or blitzing, because all he has to worry about if you're trapping or blitzing, or especially switching, is get up high, make sure like switching is the easiest one, right? Because it's just like just switch it. That's it.
He's also just better doing stuff when he's moving forward. If you think about any of his good blocks at the rim, they're not while he's backpedaling. They're when he's chasing somebody, because he gets to go downhill like a fucking racehorse, which is what he does when he's on offense, right? So it's not surprising that he does that on defense. And real quick, just one last statistics thing. I just wanted to confirm it before I was like said something that wasn't true. So the 3 categories for pick and roll, ball handler, defense on synergy: single covered, which basically for purposes of this game translates to drop, traps, and defense commits, which is like everything else where it's like defenses commit to the ball handler. So not necessarily trap, but like more aggressive defenses. And the Knicks actually had several instances of defense committing and held Cleveland to less than 0.8 points per possession on that. So like literally when they did anything else other than drop, like the results were there. So it's just, it's one of those things where like, I know the analytics people in the Knicks front office know this. I know they're not fucking stupid. I know a lot of the people who orchestrated the trade know this. I don't understand how Thibs doesn't know this, because with Mitch half the time, Cat plays more drop than Mitch, which is crazy to me.